First contact. The void of space stretched endlessly before me as I guided my scout vessel through the asteroid belt of the Thalassa system. I am Zarketh, Senior Explorer for the Vexari Interstellar Coalition, tasked with cataloging potential mining sites in this uncharted sector. My species has dominated this quadrant for millennia, our technological superiority and logical approach to expansion unchallenged by the handful of primitive civilizations we've encountered. The scanner chimed, alerting me to an anomalous energy signature emanating from the third moon of the gas giant ahead. Strange. Our preliminary surveys showed no valuable resources or technological activity in this region. I adjusted course, my 4 primary eyes narrowing as the readout displayed fluctuating power levels. Something artificial, damaged perhaps. As I approached the barren, cratered surface, I spotted it. A vessel of unfamiliar design partially buried in regolith, its hull scorched and breached in multiple locations. The architecture was bulky, inefficient, with visible seams and rivets rather than the seamless construction of Vexari craft. Primitive, yet it had somehow reached this distant moon. My mandibles clicked in contemplation. Protocol dictated reporting unknown vessels to the Coalition immediately, but the faint life sign reading on my scanner suggested urgency. Someone had survived the crash, and they might not last until a proper first contact team arrived. I landed my craft 50 meters away and prepared for extravehicular activity. The moon's thin atmosphere would sustain me briefly without specialized equipment, though the thermal variance was less than optimal. With my stunner holstered at my side, a precaution, nothing more, I approached the damaged vessel. The entry hatch had been forced open from within. A trail of dark fluid led away from the opening, disappearing behind a nearby rock formation. Blood, perhaps, though not the azure shade of Vexari circulatory fluid. "Hello," I called out in standard Vexari, then cycled through the 5 major trading languages of our sector. "I am a peaceful explorer. Do you require assistance?" A shuffling sound came from behind the rocks, followed by labored breathing. Then a figure emerged, bipedal with only 4 limbs total, standing perhaps 2/3 my height. No exoskeleton protected its form. Instead, it was covered in some kind of artificial fabric, torn and stained. Most startling was its face. Flat, with 2 forward-facing eyes, a protruding nasal structure, and patches of filamentous growth atop its head. "Stay back," the creature rasped in broken trade common, the simplified language used for basic commerce between species. One hand clutched its abdomen, where the dark fluid, definitely blood, seeped through its coverings. The other hand held a primitive energy emitter, trembling but aimed directly at my thoracic cavity. "I mean no harm," I assured it, keeping my 4 upper limbs visible while my lower limbs maintain my balance. "Your vessel is damaged. You appear injured. I have medical supplies in my ship." The creature's eyes, a striking blue against its pinkish-beige outer layer, studied me with intensity. "What are you?" "I am Zarketh of the Vexari." "And you are?" A moment of hesitation before it responded. "Human. Lieutenant Ilana Reyes, Earth Exploration Corps." She, I presumed from the vocal patterns, lowered the weapon slightly. "Never seen your kind before." I had never heard of humans or Earth, which was surprising. The Vexari database contained records of all spacefaring species in this galactic sector. "How did you come to be here, human Ilana Reyes?" "Mapping mission," she replied, wincing as she shifted her weight. "Hit some kind of gravitational anomaly. Systems failed. Crashed." Each sentence seemed to cost her effort. "Been here 6 days. Water recycler still works. Food's gone. 6 days alone on this desolate moon with damaged systems and inadequate resources." I reassessed the human. Its species appeared physically unimpressive, with no natural defenses I could discern, yet she had survived where many would perish. "My medical equipment can treat your injuries," I offered, "and I have food synthesizers aboard my vessel." Suspicion flashed across her features. "Why help me?" The question confused me. In Vexari culture, offering assistance was expected, especially to those with valuable knowledge. You are an unknown species far from your territory. This makes you scientifically significant. Your survival benefits my research. Surprisingly, her mouth curved upward. Later I would learn this was a smile, indicating amusement. At least you're honest. Not much choice anyway. She attempted to stand straighter but faltered, the energy emitter slipping from her grasp. I moved quickly, catching her before she collapsed. Her body felt unnervingly soft against my exoskeleton, radiating heat. "Can you walk to my ship? It is not far." "Lead the way," she murmured, leaning against me. Inside my vessel, I helped her onto the examination platform. My medical scanner identified multiple internal injuries, blood loss, and early-stage dehydration. Nothing my emergency systems couldn't address. As I applied regenerative gel to her wounds, I noticed her studying my ship's controls with obvious interest despite her pain. "Your technology," she said, watching as the medical unit sealed a laceration on her arm. "It's unlike anything we've developed. The Vexari have been spacefarers for over 12,000 of your years," I explained, making the conversion based on her earlier casual references to time. "Our technological advancement has been steady and methodical. Humans have only been in space for a few centuries," she admitted. "We're still finding our way." Yet they had ventured this far with such limited capabilities. Fascinating. Your physical form seems ill-adapted for space exploration. No redundant systems, minimal protection, limited appendages for manipulation. She made that upward mouth curve again. "We compensate in other ways. Humans adapt. It's what we do." Before I could inquire further, the ship's alarm blared. Approaching vessels detected. 3 craft. Configuration unknown. Weapons systems active. The human tensed. Pirates. They've been raiding this sector for months. That's why we were mapping safe routes. Pirates. The concept was foreign to me. The Vexari Coalition's dominance ensured security within our territories. "You mean unauthorized vessels engaging in theft and violence?" "Exactly that," she confirmed, struggling to sit upright. "They'll destroy your ship and take anything valuable, including us. We need to move." I hesitated. Protocol dictated contacting Coalition headquarters before engaging with potential hostiles, but the nearest outpost was days away. The scanner showed the approaching vessels moving with aggressive intent, their trajectory leaving little doubt. "Can your ship outrun them?" she asked. "Possibly, but..." I paused as the system flashed another warning. One of the vessels had launched a disruptor field designed to disable propulsion systems. "They are deploying countermeasures." The human's eyes narrowed. "Then we fight." She gestured to my weapons station. "Do you have defense capabilities?" My ship, being a scientific vessel, carried only minimal defensive measures. I explained this, expecting the human to show fear or resignation. Instead, she swung her legs off the platform, ignoring the medical unit's protests. "Reroute power from non-essential systems to your shields," she suggested, "and let me see your communication array." "What do you intend?" I asked, even as I followed her first suggestion. The logic was sound. Bolstering defenses might buy us time. "These pirates use a specific frequency to coordinate attacks," she explained, examining my communication system with surprising comprehension. "If we can broadcast interference on that band." Her fingers danced across my console, making adjustments I wouldn't have considered. "That would disrupt their coordination," I realized, "but our systems aren't compatible with." A series of rapid modifications later, my ship's communication array was emitting a cascading frequency pattern unlike anything in Vexari protocols. On the scanner, the approaching vessels suddenly scattered, their formation breaking apart. "Their targeting systems used the same frequency," the human explained, a satisfied expression crossing her features. "Bought us some time, but they'll adapt. We need to move." For the first time in my career as an explorer, I found myself following another's lead. The human's command presence was unexpected given her physical condition and technological disadvantage. More surprising was that her unorthodox approach had actually worked. We managed to break atmosphere, the pirates in disorganized pursuit. Traditional Vexeri tactical doctrine provided no effective response to their erratic attack pattern. But when I explained our ship's capabilities and limitations, Ilana quickly devised an alternate strategy. The gas giant's rings, she pointed. The ice and silicates will scatter their sensors. We can use the debris as cover to reach the jump point. Our shields will be compromised by particulate impacts, I countered. Better than being hit by whatever weapons they're carrying, she replied. Sometimes the risky path is the only viable one. This approach contradicted every principle of Vexeri space navigation, which prioritized calculated certainty over improvisation. Yet, as we maneuvered through the dense ring system, the pursuing ships fell behind, several taking damage from larger ice fragments they failed to evade. We emerged on the far side of the gas giant, our shields at 42%, but intact, with a clear route to the jump point. The human, despite reopened wounds and evident exhaustion, maintained her focus. Your approach was unorthodox, I admitted as we prepared for the jump, but effective. Humans specialize in unorthodox, she replied with that curious mouth gesture. When you're not the strongest species on your own planet, you learn to outthink the competition. As my ship's quantum drive engaged, I found myself reconsidering many things I had taken for granted. The Vexeri had always assumed our evolutionary path, emphasizing logical progression, technological refinement, and biological stability, was superior. Yet this physically unimpressive human had demonstrated capabilities my people might never have developed. Improvisation, risk calculation, and adaptive thinking that bordered on intuitive. What we could learn from each other, I realized, might be more valuable than any mineral deposit or spatial anomaly I had been sent to catalog. The pirates had forced an unexpected cooperation, but perhaps it was the beginning of something more significant. The quantum drive hummed, preparing to carry us to safety, but a fluctuation in the power core shattered that hope. Something from the pirate vessels had penetrated our systems more deeply than I realized. Alarms blared as the drive destabilized. Jump failure imminent, the computer announced. Uncontrolled gravitational distortion forming. The human and I exchanged glances, both recognizing the danger. An uncontrolled jump could send us anywhere or tear the ship apart. Can you stabilize it? She asked. Not in time, I admitted, checking the rapidly deteriorating systems. We need tow. Space twisted around us, the stars blurring into streaks of light. The ship groaned under forces it was never designed to withstand. The human, remarkably, remained calm, securing herself as best she could. If we survive this, she said with grim determination, we'll need a new plan. Indeed. I agreed, my mandibles clicking in what I was startled to recognize as admiration. Together. Then reality itself seemed to fold, and we were elsewhere, the ship tumbling through the atmosphere of an unknown world. Survival and understanding. The crash could have been worse. This thought occurred to me as I regained consciousness amid the twisted wreckage of my once pristine scout vessel. Emergency systems had partially cushioned the impact, and the crash site, a dense forest of purple-hued vegetation, had absorbed much of the kinetic energy. Zarketh, you alive? The human's voice came from outside the shattered viewport. I extracted myself from the command interface, assessing damages to my exoskeleton. Minor fractures, nothing critical. I am functional, I responded, making my way through the buckled corridor to the emergency exit. Are you injured? Ilana stood amid the debris field, her artificial coverings torn further, fresh blood on her face, but remarkably intact. She had located the emergency supply container and was already cataloging its contents. Nothing worse than before, she replied without looking up. Your medical kit saved me. This atmosphere seems breathable for both of us. Lucky break there. She gestured to a small device she had assembled from components of my ship's environmental system. Oxygen levels comparable to Earth, slightly higher nitrogen. No detected toxins. I was impressed by her initiative. You constructed an atmospheric analyzer from damaged components. She shrugged. A human gesture I was beginning to recognize as indicating casual dismissal. Field adaptation is basic training for EC officers. We never know what we'll encounter. My scan of the surrounding area revealed we were on an M-class terrestrial planet, gravity 1.2 times Vexeri standard, with complex but non-sentient life forms nearby. Our location relative to known space was uncertain. The quantum drive malfunction had sent us beyond charted territories. The communication array is irreparable, I reported after examining the wreckage more thoroughly. The quantum drive is likewise beyond salvage. So no calling for help and no jumping out, she summarized. What about short-range propulsion? The auxiliary thrusters might be reconfigured, but we lack sufficient power. Rather than despair, the human nodded thoughtfully. Then we prioritize shelter, water, food, and defense. After that, we can work on longer-term solutions. Over the next several days, I observed with growing fascination as Ilana demonstrated remarkable resourcefulness. She fashioned primitive but effective tools from wreckage components, identified edible vegetation through careful testing, and constructed a surprisingly serviceable shelter using materials from the surrounding environment, supplemented by ship components. Your species seems well adapted to survival in unknown conditions, I noted as she returned from exploring the nearby terrain, carrying samples of crystalline formations that she believed might serve as power conduits. We evolved on a planet with extreme environmental variations, she explained, arranging the crystals to catch the light of this world's sun. Ice ages, massive temperature fluctuations, natural disasters. Those who couldn't adapt didn't pass on their genes. The Vexari homeworld has remained relatively stable for millions of years, I said. Our evolution emphasized specialization and efficiency within known parameters. She considered this. Explains your technological approach. Perfect solutions for understood problems. She examined a damaged circuit board critically. But sometimes you need imperfect solutions for unexpected challenges. On the seventh day, our fragile existence was interrupted by a discovery. Ilana had ventured further from the crash site, seeking materials to repair our water reclamation system, when she called me urgently over the short-range communicator we'd salvaged. Zarketh, you need to see this. I found her standing before an imposing structure partially obscured by vegetation. Massive blocks of some metallic stone formed an entrance arch, inscribed with symbols unlike any language in the Vexeri database. Signs of intelligent construction, I observed, recording the discovery with my personal scanner. Ancient, judging by the integration with native flora. Look at this, she said, touching one of the symbols. To my astonishment, the symbol illuminated at her touch, a soft blue glow spreading to adjacent markings. The technology remains active, I said, mandibles clicking in excitement. And it responds to you specifically. She tried another symbol with the same result. When I attempted to activate the symbols, nothing happened. It's recognizing something in human biology, she hypothesized. DNA, perhaps, or some frequency our bodies naturally emit. Before we could investigate further, my scanner alerted us to approaching ships entering the atmosphere. The pirates, Ilana said grimly. They must have tracked the quantum disruption from our crash. We retreated to our camp and gathered what supplies we could carry. The ruined ship would be obvious from orbit. Our only advantage was knowledge of the surrounding terrain and the mysterious structure. We should seek shelter in the ruins, I suggested. The structure's composition may shield us from their sensors. Ilana agreed, and we made our way back to the ancient entrance. This time, when she touched the symbols, the massive stone doors parted silently, revealing a corridor illuminated by the same soft blue light that had shimmered from the symbols. It's inviting us in, she murmured, equally awed and wary. The interior was vast, a testament to advanced engineering beyond even Vexeri capabilities. As we moved deeper, lights activated ahead of us, responding to Ilana's presence. The architecture was elegant yet practical, with a clear purpose I couldn't immediately discern. We reached what appeared to be a central chamber, dominated by a raised dais in its center. Above it hung suspended crystalline fragments arranged in a pattern reminiscent of stellar cartography. "It's a map," Ilana said, approaching the dais. As she stepped onto it, the entire chamber transformed. The crystalline fragments rearranged themselves, forming a holographic display of breathtaking detail. Star systems, planets, spatial phenomena rendered with precision that surpassed our most advanced navigational systems. More startling were the figures that appeared within the display. Bipedal beings similar to humans in basic form, but with subtle differences, slightly larger cranial structures, eyes with an inner luminescence, and skin that seemed to shift with patterns of light. "They look like," Ilana began. "The predecessors," I whispered, my scientific detachment momentarily abandoned. "In our most ancient texts, there are references to a species that achieved technological mastery beyond imagination. They spread throughout the galaxy, then vanish without explanation approximately 100,000 years ago. Most Vexeri scholars consider them mythological." The display shifted, focusing on a specific world that Ilana recognized immediately. "That's Earth," she said, voice barely audible. "How could they know about Earth?" The hologram changed again, showing what appeared to be genetic sequences alongside comparative physiological structures. The predecessors next to primitive hominids, with arrows indicating genetic modifications, interventions spanning millennia. They didn't just know about Earth. I realized, the implications staggering. They shaped humanity's evolution. Ilana stared at the display, shock giving way to understanding. "We found ruins on Earth, technologies we couldn't explain, gaps in our evolutionary record." She looked at me. "Your people have ancient texts mentioning them. My people have myths about gods who came from the stars." Before we could process this revelation further, the structure trembled. The pirates had found us. "We need to move deeper," I urged, but Ilana remained on the dais, studying the controls with newfound intensity. "This facility still has power, still has active systems," she said. "The predecessors built to last. There might be defenses." She placed her hands on what appeared to be a control interface. The response was immediate. The entire chamber hummed with energy, and the holographic display shifted to show multiple red signals approaching the structure. "They're surrounding us," I warned, my scanner confirming what the ancient system was displaying. Ilana's focus was absolute, her hands moving across the interface with increasing confidence, as though guided by some intuitive understanding. "This system is responding to me, showing me how it works. I think it's designed to recognize genetic markers of the predecessors." "Which you carry," I said, comprehension dawning. The predecessors didn't just influence human evolution. They encoded themselves into your genetic heritage. The pirate forces had reached the entrance, their energy weapons discharging against the ancient stone. The structure's integrity held, but the attacks were intensifying. "There," Ilana said suddenly, activating a specific sequence. Defense protocol initiated. The structure's response was immediate and overwhelming. Energy fields cascaded from emitters concealed within the architecture, expanding outward in concentric waves. My scanner showed the pirate vessels caught in these fields, their systems failing, weapons disabled. "Selective disruption technology," I marveled. It targeted their aggressive systems while leaving life support intact. But Ilana had discovered something else, her expression shifting from triumph to awe. "Zarketh, this isn't just a research outpost or memorial. It's a seed vault, a repository of predecessor knowledge and technology. And it's been waiting for someone with the right genetic key." The holographic display had expanded to show hundreds of similar structures scattered across the galaxy, many in regions the Vexeri had explored without ever detecting them. Only those carrying predecessor genetic markers could access them. They left their legacy in safekeeping, I realized. Not with the most advanced civilizations, but with the species they had influenced, humans, knowing that you would eventually reach the stars and rediscover their knowledge when you were ready. Ilana nodded slowly. And now we have. In that moment, as we stood surrounded by technology millennia beyond our comprehension, I understood that everything the Vexuri believed about our place in the galactic hierarchy had been based on incomplete information. We had prided ourselves on our advancement, our methodical approach to expansion and knowledge. Yet here was evidence that another path existed. The humans, with their adaptability, their intuitive thinking, their capacity to improvise and take risks, carried within them the legacy of the most advanced species the galaxy had ever known. Not because they were inherently superior, but because they embodied qualities the predecessors had valued enough to preserve. Your people and mine, I said carefully, might have much to learn from each other. Ilana smiled, a gesture I now recognized as indicating agreement and positive emotional connection. Partnerships are always stronger than competition. My people have a saying, diversity creates resilience. As the pirate threat subsided and we began to explore the vast knowledge repository surrounding us, I knew that the report I would eventually deliver to the Vexari Coalition would change our understanding of the galaxy forever. Not because we had discovered the legacy of the predecessors, but because we had discovered the importance of perspectives different from our own. The human had shown me that sometimes the most advanced civilization isn't the one with the most advanced technology. It's the one that embraces adaptation, cooperation, and the humility to recognize that no single approach contains all answers. And perhaps that was the predecessor's ultimate lesson for us all.